Welcome to Sports Science Insight, the channel where we break down new scientific studies and turn research into practical knowledge for training, recovery, and human performance. Today, we are looking at the article, Short-Term Severe Low Energy Availability in Athletes, Molecular Mechanisms, Endocrine Responses, and Performance Outcomes. This narrative review was published in Scandinavian Journal of Medicine and AMP, Science and Sports in 2025, by Jeppesen and colleagues. The question is simple: does cutting weight really improve performance? Many athletes believe that becoming lighter will automatically make them faster, stronger relative to body mass, or more efficient. And in some sports, body mass can matter. But this review explains an important problem. If weight loss comes from short-term severe low energy availability, the body may not respond with better performance. It may respond with hormonal disruption, lower recovery capacity, reduced muscle protein synthesis, immune changes, and impaired power or endurance. So the message is not simply, weight loss is bad. The message is more precise. Lighter does not always mean faster. And if you want more evidence-based breakdowns on sports nutrition, exercise physiology, recovery, and performance science, subscribe to Sports Science Insight. Let's break it down. Low energy availability, or LE, is not just the same thing as eating less. It describes how much energy is left for the body after exercise energy expenditure is subtracted from dietary energy intake. In simple terms, food comes in. Training uses energy. What remains must support hormones, recovery, muscle repair, immune function, brain function, bone metabolism, and basic survival. In this review, short-term severe LE is described as energy availability below 30 kilocalories per kilogram of fat-free mass per day. This can happen intentionally, when an athlete cuts calories to lose weight before competition. But it can also happen unintentionally, when training volume increases and energy intake does not increase enough to match the workload. That is important. An athlete may not think they are dieting, but if training load rises and fuel intake stays the same, the body may still enter a low energy state. The biological rule is simple: the body cannot train, recover, adapt, and protect health without enough fuel. The reason athletes cut weight is easy to understand. In many sports, a better power-to-body mass ratio can help performance. This idea is common in running, cycling, skiing, combat sports, gymnastics, and other weight-sensitive sports. The logic seems simple: if body mass goes down and power stays the same, performance should improve. But the problem is that power may not stay the same. In severe short-term low energy availability, body mass loss can include fat-free mass, not only fat. That means the athlete may lose some of the tissue needed for force production, recovery, and training adaptation. The review also shows that low energy availability can affect hormones, muscle protein turnover, metabolism, immune function, and performance capacity. So the trade-off matters. What you gain in lightness, you may lose in recovery, hormonal balance, and true power output. The performance gain may come with a hidden cost. When energy is too low, the body starts saving fuel. This is not weakness. It is biology. The body prioritizes essential functions and reduces energy available for processes that are important for performance, but not immediately necessary for survival. The article's Figure 1 summarizes this well. Short-term severe LE can affect several systems at the same time: reproductive hormones, whole body metabolism, skeletal muscle, immune function, bone metabolism, and nutrient availability. In females, the hypothalamic pituitary-ovarian axis can be suppressed. Thyroid hormones, especially T3, can decrease. Resting metabolic rate can fall. Muscle protein synthesis can be reduced. Cortisol can increase. Immune cell function can change, oxidative stress may increase, and recovery may be affected. So low energy availability is not just a nutrition issue. It is a whole body stressor. When energy is low, the body starts saving fuel, and that fuel-saving mode can interfere with training adaptation and performance. The endocrine system detects energy deficits fast. In females, severe LI can suppress luteinizing hormone pulsatility within days. That matters because LH pulsatility is part of reproductive axis regulation. If the energy deficit continues, this can contribute to menstrual disruption and longer-term consequences. The review also discusses reductions in hormones such as T3 and IGF-1. T3 is important for metabolic rate and may also influence muscle function and exercise economy. IGF-1 is involved in tissue growth, repair, and adaptation. Resting metabolic rate can also drop quickly. One study discussed in the review showed that 10 days of severe LI produced a 4% decrease in resting metabolic rate, and this was not fully restored after only 2 days of refueling. This matters because a lower metabolic rate is a sign that the body is conserving energy. So the consequence is not only feeling tired. The body may reduce the physiological support needed for recovery, adaptation, reproductive function, and performance. The endocrine system is an early warning system. And in severe LI, that alarm can ring within days. One of the most important points in this review is that losing body mass does not always mean improving body composition. Short-term severe LI can significantly reduce muscle protein synthesis. The review reports evidence showing that after only 5 days of LI at 30 kilocalories per kilogram of fat-free mass per day, muscle protein synthesis was 27% lower compared with optimal energy availability. This is a major issue for athletes. Muscle protein synthesis is part of how the body repairs and adapts to training. If this process is reduced, the athlete may train hard but adapt poorly. Some studies also showed reductions in fat-free mass even when athletes consumed high protein and performed resistance exercise. So protein alone may not solve the problem if total energy availability is severely low. High protein intake and resistance training may help, but they may not fully prevent the negative effects of severe energy deficiency. This creates a paradox. An athlete may cut weight to improve the strength-to-mass ratio, but the process may reduce the exact tissue needed for power, recovery, and performance. Less body mass is not always better body composition. Now let's look at performance. The article's Figure 2 summarizes how short-term severe LI can affect different physical outputs. The review discusses evidence that severe LI can impair rate of force development, repeated sprint ability, short intense exercise performance, and endurance capacity. In one controlled study, 10 days of severe LI in moderately trained females was associated with a 13% reduction in rate of force development in the knee extensors. The same study also reported a 5% reduction in repeated sprint ability. In another study, 10 days of severe LI reduced power output during a 4-minute cycling time trial by 2.5%. And in highly trained female endurance athletes, 14 days of severe LI reduced time to exhaustion at high intensity by 19%. Endurance performance can also be affected. One study reported an 8% impairment in a 20-minute time trial after 14 days of severe LI. However, not every performance measure changes in the same way. Countermovement jump may be less affected in some studies. So the message is not that every test collapses immediately. The message is that severe LI can impair several key performance outputs, especially those related to explosive force, repeated sprinting, high-intensity work, and endurance capacity. Cutting weight can cut performance too. The risk is not only performance. It is also health and training consistency. Short-term severe LI can negatively affect bone turnover markers. For example, the review discusses evidence that 3 days of severe LI through dietary restriction reduced the bone formation marker P1NP by 17% in active females. This does not mean that bone density changes in 3 days. But it does suggest that the process of bone remodeling can be affected quickly. The review also discusses immune-related effects. Short-term severe LI may alter immune cell function and increase oxidative stress. That matters because illness and poor recovery can interrupt training. There may also be cognitive and neuromuscular effects. The review discusses possible effects on reaction time, decision-making, and neuromuscular function, although more controlled studies are still needed. For athletes, consistency is everything. If low energy availability increases the risk of illness, injury, poor recovery, and missed training days, then the long-term performance cost can be larger than the short-term body mass benefit. The risk is not only what happens on test day, it is what happens to the weeks of training before and after. This review focuses mainly on female athletes. That makes sense because low energy availability is more prevalent in female athletes, and much of the research has been conducted in this population. Female athletes are central to the evidence. But male athletes are not immune. The review discusses emerging evidence showing that male athletes can also experience impaired explosive power, endurance performance, well-being, hormonal changes, and bone-related concerns under low energy availability. However, the response may differ between sexes. Some male studies suggest that energy-sensing hormones, like leptin and insulin, may respond quickly, while testosterone, IGF-1, and T3 may be more resistant to very short-term disruption. But with more severe or prolonged low energy availability, male athletes can also show meaningful physiological and performance problems. So the responsible message is this: severe LE can negatively affect both female and male athletes, although the evidence is stronger in females and responses may differ. This is not only a women's issue, it is a performance and health issue. So what should athletes and coaches do with this information? First, do not assume that rapid weight loss guarantees better performance. A lower number on the scale does not automatically mean better speed, power, endurance, or recovery. Second, monitor training volume. When training load increases, energy intake often needs to increase too. If food intake stays the same while training volume rises, low energy availability can happen unintentionally. Third, seek qualified support. Intentional body composition changes should be planned with sports nutrition professionals, especially for athletes in weight-sensitive sports. Fourth, think long-term. The goal is not just to be lighter next week. The goal is to train consistently, recover well, adapt properly, stay healthy, and perform when it matters. The final message is simple: fuel the athlete, not just the number on the scale. If this video helped you understand why cutting weight can be risky for performance, subscribe to Sports Science Insight. Here, we analyze new scientific studies and turn them into practical knowledge for athletes, coaches, students, and anyone interested in evidence-based performance. Leave your comment below. Do you think athletes focus too much on body weight and not enough on fueling? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next breakdown.